Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lastia Cahoot and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Hello, and welcome to another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? My name is Lastia. I am your host. And next to me, virtually anyway, is my co-host in life and on this show, Glenn Sheridan.
Good day, everyone.
And today we have another super special, amazing guest that I am so excited to have on the show. It is someone that was first kind of introduced to us way back when we did, I think maybe our 4th or 5th podcast last year with Reverend Lori Savage. And she spoke about someone who she considers to be one of her mentors and someone who is immersed in the world of the energy of money, of personal and financial freedom. And so recently, Glenn and I received a video from our friend Lori that was done by this person. And then I also ended up going and reading her book, The Energy of Money. And oh my gosh, there is so much that correlates with everything that I've been studying through the science of mind teachings, through the philosophy that we embrace, and even into, the dip that we took into the quantum pool, the quantum sea of infinite possibilities and infinite potentiality this past year in the Advanced Consciousness Studies class with Dr. James. So a little bit about who this individual is. This person is a PhD and offers purpose-driven people simple yet powerful tools for training their brains in success. She has worked for over decades with people from all over the world and turns timeless wisdom into practical skills that have helped tens of thousands of people to live and serve with clarity, focus, ease, and grace. I love those 4 terms. She is also a leading expert in leadership excellence, personal professional development, and financial empowerment. She has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She is the founder and director of the Academy for Coaching Excellence, which I know we're going to hear more about. It's an internationally accredited coach training program that has trained thousands of people worldwide in the nonprofit, for-profit, and government sectors. She is also the author of The Energy of Money and its follow-up book, Mastering Life's Energies. She is also the wisdom and insight of The Energy of Money DVD. She is a master certified coach and PhD in psychology. She is a transformational seminar leader, and she is a lifelong agent of social change who has contributed in areas such as civil rights, racial justice, women's empowerment, and health and human services. So with all of that, knowing there is so much more to come and so much more to dig into, Maria Nemeth, tell us, who do you think you are?
I just love this. I love this introduction. I'm saying, who is that person? Who does she think she is? I love the question, who do you think you are? Because you can hear it in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. One of it is, who do you think you are? When you're just arguing with someone. And the other is, who do you think you are as a being? And then, of course, the third, who do you think you are? And so this can be interpreted in so many different ways. So my mission in life is to give people tools that they can use to bring clarity, focus, ease, and grace to life, to make the difference that they're here to make, so that there are no regrets whatsoever. That at any point in their life, they can say to themselves, I've had ups, I've had downs, I'm playing full out, and you know something? I am doing what I'm meant to be doing. Just like the 2 of you in this program. It's so clear to me after listening to your podcast that the 2 of you are doing what you're meant to be doing. And so when you are, I mean, this is what life is all about, to discover what you're meant to be doing and then to be empowered to actually go out and do it. And that has been my lifelong mission through being a licensed clinical psychologist, and then an associate clinical professor of psychiatry, and then leaving that behind and going on because I discovered that coaching is much more in keeping with my temperament, really looking at what coaching is, not just the practice of coaching, but what does coaching do? What is coaching all about? And out of that, developing over the years some principles and tools that people can use. And people have asked me, Lesia, they say, well, how did you develop all this stuff? And I tell them I had thousands of guinea pigs, literally, because I would try something and it would work or it wouldn't. And then I'd try something else. And, I've had letters from people, emails, who worked with me many, many years ago. And they said, we heard that you call us your guinea pigs, but we just love what you did with us anyway. I mean, we had breakthroughs. But, I've been doing this work with people for 52 years.
Oh,
I know.
that's how old I am.
I'm 77, and you know, I've since I was 25, I began working with people because I wanted to see them live the life that they were meant to live, Lesia. But then, and I tried the psychology route, and it didn't work. So I went on and studied and worked with spiritual teachers and took in everything I could take in, and then developed these principles and these tools. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
I love it though. And there is so much in there to unpack. The first thing that I would like to address though is the very, very sort of the opening, the way you answered the show about how there are different ways to interpret the question, who do you think you are, depending on which word the emphasis is put on. And that for me is a bit of a dear topic right now, because I am in the editing stages of my very first book. And one of the chapters is devoted to what we have sort of experienced and gleaned from all of these amazing conversations we've had through this podcast. And this question, who do you think you are? Because it does depend on, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And then there's a whole other section on this sort of meme that has been a part of Glenn's in my life for decades, which came from a coworker that we used to work with. And it was just this sort of very melodramatic, flamboyant way of asking the question, but he would ask it, who do you think you are anyways? And so there's a whole section in my book about what anyways, in terms of regardless, means as well. So this brings up the sort of the topic of distinctions, because I heard a lot of distinctions as you were talking. And so just in that question, the distinction of, focusing on this versus focusing on this, and how that question can be interpreted and then answered. And then I heard about principles versus tools, heard about psychology, sort of going into spirituality, discovery and empowerment. And so I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about how distinctions, or sort of the evolution or the expansion of one thing leading into another, has been, I guess, sort of has evolved or has unfolded throughout your 52-year-long career, and how that those distinctions, or that sort of unfoldment from this level to this level has been able to allow you to do the work that you do that much more effectively, from a much deeper, more profound place, helping people to transform in a more profound way. That's kind of a long question, but
No. I think it's really a lovely question. What it says to me is that you really are a student of truth.
Hmm.
It's really clear to me, Lesia. And I enjoy the question. So what I'd like to do, if it's possible, is to point to some distinctions that I have discovered over the years. Is that
Oh, yeah,
okay with you
absolutely.
if I do
Thank
it in
you.
that way? Okay. Um, because when I say principles and tools, so a principle I've discovered is a guideline that we use to wake up and become conscious about something. So there are many different principles that we can use in order to do it. One of the most powerful principles is being willing. Being willing. Now, the great thing about a principle as a distinction is that you can take it and apply it to different aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a universal quality of a principle.
Mhm.
So, being willing is the most powerful um, uh, force that we have. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
It is the ability to say yes. Now, for me, the distinction of being willing became very clear when I read a definition, it was a quote from Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the second Secretary General of the United Nations. And he was Swedish, and we have a center in Sweden where we teach these coaching principles. And every time I bring him up in Sweden, everybody cheers. Yes, Dag Hammarskjöld, you know. But his this quote is it's in my books, and as a matter of fact, I'm writing another book. It's called 50 and Better: How to Create a Meaningful Life at Any Age. His quote was this: "For everything that has been, I say thank you.
I remember that from
And
your
to
book.
all that is yet to be, I say yes." Now, the unimaginable audacity and courage to say, for everything that has been, I say thank you. Not just for some of the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but everything.
Mm-hmm.
See, I have a definition of abundance that is a little different than many people's definition, and we can go into that later if you wish. But it involves part of it does involve our capacity to say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that when we're 18 months to 2 years old, we learn how to say no. That's, of course, the first thing. But after that, it's incumbent upon us to learn how to say yes. So for everything that has been, I say thank you. And then he turns and he says, and to all that is yet to be, I say yes. Not maybe, not why me, not no, not well, if I like it, I'll say yes to it. No, to all that is yet to be, I say yes. So the principle of being willing involves our capacity to say yes. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you turn that into a tool? So the purpose of a tool is to take a principle and put it into practice in everyday life. Because it's not enough to know a principle, great, being willing, what are you going to do with it? You see, and that for me has always been the question. Not It's not just enough to know the principle, whatever the principle is, because there are a number of principles about which my work is fashioned, but how do you put it into physical reality,
Mm-hmm.
into your life? Now, I discovered the way to do it, and that is by adding one word. And by adding this one word, you make it the most powerful utterance that we can say. It's really, and it is this: nevertheless, I am willing. Nevertheless, I'm willing. Now, what does nevertheless mean? Well, without taking anything away from the situation, nevertheless, you see, without changing the situation I'm in, nevertheless, I'm willing.
Mm-hmm.
So I may not want to do something. I may not think I can. Do you see? I may be worried about my ability to do something. And yet, the minute I say these are the four most powerful words we can utter. I tell you, I've worked with this for years and years and years, and this is what I've discovered is just so amazing. When you say, nevertheless, I'm willing, it changes the landscape.
Mm.
It changes how you see things. You know? Nevertheless, I'm willing. I discovered that very cogently, very, very, very much to heart 15 years ago when I was being treated for breast cancer. And I had to go through 8 chemotherapy sessions. And for all of you who are listening, if you've been through treatment for cancer, or if you know someone who's been through treatment for cancer, you know that chemotherapy is not a happy journey. That's putting it mildly, you know. And I remember the first 3 sessions were bad enough, but at session 4, I was really getting sick because it was meant to be, so that all the weak cancer cells could leave my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the nurse coming toward me with about 6 bottles that they were going to put into my arm. And I was feeling sick. And I remembered, wait. Nevertheless, I'm willing.
Mm.
And the minute I said that, Lesia, my body relaxed.
Mm.
Which was a good thing too, because they were putting things into my arm. I didn't have one of those cannulas. They were putting things into my arm, and my veins had to relax anyway so they could get the needle in. But at that moment, something happened. The situation didn't change, but my relationship to the situation changed. And so I saw how powerful the tool, nevertheless, I am willing, is. So that's a distinction between a principle and a tool. I hope that's clear.
That is great. And before you go on, can we just sort of marinate there for a little while? Because there was so much amazing information and just so much wisdom in everything that you just offered. And so I want to kind of settle in there for a bit so that people have an opportunity to, really allow for certain things to land. When you use the word, I mean, first of all, that quote is amazing. And I remember reading it in the book and just thinking, so powerful and so profound and so beautiful, because to say thank you to everything, the sweet, the sour, everything in between, is just to acquiesce, or to surrender to the profundity, to the gift, to the sort of, opportunity and possibility of it all, and not just to go and start labeling things, good, bad, horrible, fantastic, but just to be open and accepting of it all, knowing that all of it is something that is worthwhile, having gone through, experienced, felt, whatever. But the word nevertheless, though, it reminds me of something that we say in science of mind, at least in certain circles, which is no matter what. and it even has the same number of syllables as nevertheless. And so for me, that's that's a very similar thing where, you know, like regardless of what's going on, regardless of what we're feeling, experiencing, you know, no matter, you know, what kind of diagnosis, condition, occurrence, anything that is going on or being felt, I am the infinite power, creativity, and resilience that is the essence of everyone and everything, you know, no matter what, nevertheless. So that I think, I mean, it's incredibly empowering to add something like that, because then it's a continual reminder, and I guess an activational tool within even that statement.
That's it.
We have it in us to carry on, to persevere, to, I'm going to use one of your phrases here, to go beyond, or like plow through trouble at the border, regardless of what's going on.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
I love it. I love
Thank you.
it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
I am so loving being in your presence right now. I feel like in some kind of master class that is just so fantastic. So thank you. Honey Bunch, do you want to ask or add anything?
Just a quick thing on that. Nevertheless, that was beautiful. Thank you. The word evokes for me in that framework what you're saying. It is both. It's like a respectful listening to the conditions outside that may be occurring, that may look like obstacles and challenges, as well as listening to your own inner voice and doubt, like giving a good hearing to both. Oh, this is definitely happening outside. This is part of why I'm going through this, but also my own sort of inner critic or ego saying, "There's no way you can get through this." So you're listening in inwardly and outwardly, and you're giving it a fair hearing and saying, "Well, you make a good case, and this is definitely hurting me or whatever." And I know I haven't been able to do that before. However, nevertheless, I love that.
I love it. I think that's a very cogent statement on your part. I just love it, Glenn. So absolutely. You know, we have in the Bible. You know, I've had the privilege of studying different wisdom traditions, and in the New Testament, for example, we have Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane the night before he dies. Now, question: how do we know that that's what he said? Who was there to listen to him?
Mm-hmm.
Really, I know this is somewhat iconoclastic, but wait a second. All the apostles were asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So who heard that? So the answer is it doesn't matter, because it demonstrates the hero. Because when we come upon him in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's crying and he's saying, do I really need to go through this? This is, Glenn, this is honoring that voice inside, you know, and do I have to go through this, you know, be crucified tomorrow, be killed? You know, the song of the lark is so sweet, and it's so beautiful to smell the flowers, and then at the end, he says, "Thy will be done."
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that translated from the Aramaic, it is, "Nevertheless, I am willing." And you see, that's what creates the hero.
Yeah.
That's why we love that story. He may have said this in the Garden of Gethsemane. We have no idea. There may have been someone there to hear him. No one reported that. But what we do know is that someone wrote these words down and said, this is what he said. So somewhere along the line, we know that he must have been teaching that. Thy will be done. Thy will be done.
Ooh,
Nevertheless, I'm willing.
thanks. Yeah.
Wow.
That
Okay.
thy will be done. I think for some people that those words also get get them through their day, get them through whatever challenges, you know. I know of at least one person who that's what they say. You know, that's their dialogue with God, I think. You know, much of the time because it gets back to your I think your focus element and it all then is tied in with clarity and you know, but it's what do I need to focus on? You know, what is it that I need to embody or you know what where am I now? So
Hmm.
thy will be done is it's sort of a strange yardstick or measuring method or something, but it's also you're letting go, like it's ease, right? It's and grace. So I can't, you could go on about this forever. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
sweet,
yeah, just
sweet.
within your
Well,
frame.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but you may want to suggest to this person
Mm,
that they try on for a little while. Nevertheless, I'm willing.
right,
Because the only reason I say that, the only reason I would say that is because it demonstrates a little more agency.
right,
Thy will be done is a very powerful statement. And yet, at sometimes, not always really, but at sometimes it can be seen as a passive statement. Oh, thy will be done.
right.
Nevertheless, I'm willing says, I am willing to participate in this.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nevertheless.
Yeah.
So this is a fun. We're having a great time, aren't we?
I'll, I'll,
This-
I'll quickly jump in and just also mention that your principles. I mean, I'm involved with a Unity Church here in on Vancouver Island, and that's something that's ongoing within Unity churches. And I'm not super familiar with like embodying them all. I'm still a relatively new um, kind of what they would call truth student. You know, I'm exploring it all, and I love what I've learned so far. Nothing sort of rings hollow to me within what the filmers came up with those 12 principles. You happen to also have 12 principles in your book. Are they sort of somewhat loosely connected, or do you just like that framework, or is that just organically how it came up? 12.
It's organically how it came up,
Right. Okay.
you know. And to date, um, we've had, well, I used to teach at Unity Village.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes. Um, we did the foundational course that's now part of the Academy for Coaching Excellence. It's called Mastering Life's Energies, out of which I wrote the book Mastering Life's Energies. But um, I think when one spends enough time, as Lesia would say, marinating in principle, one begins to discover that which has been with us always.
Right.
Because the Fillmore's 12 principles are principles that have been with us always. They were uncovering that which is already there, which
Right.
is really what a principle is. It's always has been there, and it only needs to be uncovered, not created.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yeah. Whew.
I'm just feeling so incredibly filled with joy and gratitude right now with this because of this conversation. I'm just smiling inside and out.
Hmm.
Okay, so nevertheless, I am willing. Such a powerful activational phrase, tool. Why would people not be willing? Why, what are some reasons that people might come up with, or that, you know, might just sort of get in the way of that openness, of that surrender, of that saying yes, to prevent people from moving forward in their lives? And in your experience, what are some things that have come up? The thousands and millions, or boiled down to like one, you know,
Ay,
foundation.
ay, ay. Ha, 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 ha. Well, can I start? Let me start by saying to be a human being is to be willing. Okay. And it already exists inside of us. It doesn't need to be created. It's always there. We can either act in accordance with it or not. Now, that's one level of existence to see that that's really true. Some people label that the spiritual truth, a spiritual existence.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer to work with something that I call ontology, which is the study of the nature of being. And over the years, philosophically, I read, for those of you who have read anything by Heidegger on ontology, you know he's the most difficult person in the world to read, because what he's trying to do is create the ontological experience in the reader. And it cannot be created by reading. It can only be created through experience. And that's one of the things that I have devoted my life to, which is creating for people the experience of who they are ontologically. This, who do you think you are? Ontologically. And I talk about that a little bit in my book, Mastering Life's Energies. But to tell you the truth, it is really comes home in the courses that people can come and take from us. But so ontologically, we are always willing. We may not want to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and we mischaracterize it as not being willing. Do you see?
Okay. Yep. Another distinction. Yep.
Yes. And psychologically, you can not want to do something. You can think it's a bad idea. Heck, I hate this. No. And yet, I'm willing. Now, when people get in touch with who they are as being willing, they're relieved. Because if I say I'm not willing, it hurts. You see that? I mean, right now, say, I don't want to. And go ahead, say it.
I don't
Okay,
want
great.
to. I don't want to. I don't want
Very
to.
good. Now say, I'm not willing.
I'm not willing.
Isn't that hard?
It is hard.
Of course it's hard, because you're speaking against your nature.
Mm-hmm.
It is in your nature to be willing. And that's another distinction. Who we are psychologically and who we are ontologically. So psychologically, we can have all kinds of thoughts and feelings and judgments and evaluations and all that kind of stuff. Ontologically, we are willing. And when you really have people come in contact with that aspect of themselves, being willing, they're relieved. Oh, I thought it meant I wasn't willing. No. You just don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I make another distinction between willing, being willing, and willingness.
That was just in my head, the question that I was going to bring up. Okay.
Now, I'm so glad that you're asking me these questions. I'm just having a ball here. I just have to stop for a minute. I'm having a ball with you, Glenn and Lesia. So, willingness is a noun. happiness, willingness, anything with a ness after it, ness words, nouns. That means it's occurring outside of me. Let me give you an example, because these are two statements that are, say, I have willingness. Say that out loud.
I have willingness.
I have willingness.
Now say, I am willing.
I am willing.
I am willing.
Which is more powerful?
Oh, I am. I am willing.
Of course, because that's where it belongs. Being willing. So every time people talk about willingness, I say, well, wait. That's a noun. And sometimes people say, you're so picky, Maria. No, because your brain responds to the words you use. And if we had another hour and a half, I could show you how our brain creates its own experience of reality, but suffice it to say that that which we focus upon does create our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I were to focus upon I have willingness, there's like nowhere to go. You see, it's like, kind of falls apart. But if I say I am willing, there's there's some momentum. And it also, I think, Glenn, you'll like this. It also pertains to something that I've been so interested in for so many years, internal versus external locus of control. Now, internal versus external locus of control is a psychological construct. And I'll look up, maybe you could look up for me, because right now I am not remembering the name of the man who did it in 1954 or 56. If one of you were to look up internal versus external locus of control. But this is the bottom line. People with internal locus of control know that they are the authors of their own life experience. People who have internal locus of control.
Okay.
People who have external locus of control experience themselves as the victim of life's circumstances and situations.
Wow.
Now, this was created many, many years ago, and I actually studied it when I was getting my PhD at UCLA. And who knew that for years and years and years and years and years subsequent to that, I would one of the results of my work is to give people ways to develop internal locus of control. So nevertheless, I'm willing. Do you see? Internal locus of control. Yes, Julian Roeder. Absolutely. Thank you. I knew one of you would come up with it. Yep, Julian Roeder. And, I suggest you might want to look at his work. It's very, very great, I mean, in the 1950s and 60s, he's looking at what is it, people who have internal locus of control tend to be happier and they tend to be healthier. Mm-hmm. Now, by that I mean they may still get ill, but their response to the illness is much different than people who have external locus of control, who experience themselves as the victim of external circumstances and conditions. So that is one of the things that my principles and tools are aimed at.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, I'd like to jump in here if I may, because I've never heard that term before, or
Oh,
that phrase, and so thank you for bringing it up. And this, I think, is what I experienced, or sort of, the I guess the aha that I had when I first stepped into Center for Spiritual Living in Toronto and heard what people were talking about there with the
mm,
science, through the science of mind philosophy. Because
mm-hmm.
what I discovered there and then was that I am in charge of my life. I am the one creating my reality
Yep,
according to how I use my mind. There's no master puppeteer or anyone or anything that,
nope,
is sort of like pulling the strings. And then more recently learning that there's no separately occurring reality outside of me that is going on, that I am creating my own reality, and that even if there are other people that sort of, right now the three of us are sharing an experience, that each of us is creating our own version of this experience and having a slightly different experience based on our, what our perception, based on our tendency of thought, our beliefs, our feelings, whatever else is sort of mixed in there. But for me to learn that I had sovereignty or authority or power, in the unfoldment of my life, was a welcome realization. For me, that was empowering. I know for other people, that can be terrifying because all of a sudden it's all on them. There's no outside force or spirit or God or higher power or something that is separate from them, that is kind of making the decisions or in control. It's all up to us. So for me, that's kind of what I just heard, in what you said. That was my discovery, that I guess I am the internal version of, and what's the word, is it locus?
locus of control,
Okay.
LOCUS,
Okay.
internal locus of control.
Yeah, so that was my sort of, the opening to discovering that, or not discovering, but living from that, you know, point of view. And for me, it was incredibly empowering, and was the doorway and the gateway to just diving into those studies and pursuing a, I don't want to say career, because really it's a way of living and being,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
just immersed in spiritual and consciousness studies and
yes.
living from the infinite creativity, resilience, and love that I now know myself to be. So that's so interesting, really interesting. I'm going to look that guy up, Julian Roeder. Thank you for that.
Please. There's even a scale that he developed. And there are several scales that have been developed after him as well. Yeah, it's very interesting. And um, Lesia, one of the reasons people become scared is because they may be thrown into the deep end of the pool too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way of taking people along easily, through the shallow end and gradually increasing the depth of the pool. So very often when people are scared and they hear uh, that that this is the way I see it, okay? I'll kind of back up a little.
Okay.
You are not your brain. You have a brain. You have two eyes, a nose, a mouth, and a brain. Your brain is an organ. You and I are that which has the capacity to shape our brain in the way we want. Now, one of my teachings along those lines captures both, I would say, spiritual principle and neurophysiology at the same time. And it's called the Four Boxes. And it is in my Mastering Life's Energies book for any of our listeners. And it has four boxes in it, so I call it the Four Boxes. It's very, profound. But I want you to imagine something. And, You know, the reason I'm taking you and Glenn through this is because it's so clear to me that you're so avid students and great interviewers that I imagine you pull for information from the people you interview, because that's what I'm experiencing with you, just how willing you are to hear what I have to say. And it becomes a real pleasure to say it. So basically, and we could go into this principle for hours, okay? So if you can imagine in your mind 4 boxes, and in the first box, you put the word conclusion. Now, a conclusion is a mental model. It's a way for our brain to know what's happening. And it turns out that our brain has not changed much in over 100,000 years. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Literally, 100,000 years ago. You know, we didn't have fangs, we didn't have fur, we couldn't run very fast. But we did have a brain that could figure out what was going on. And I imagine that there are times in your life when you didn't know what was happening in the moment. It's probably very scary, like me when I all of a sudden drove into a fog bank and I couldn't see in front of me or around me, and I could feel my brain trying to compute what to do. And there was very little I could do except slow down. But even then, I didn't know if someone was going to run into me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've had something like that, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is how it goes. Our brains create a mental model, something to focus on. And the minute we focus on it, our brain is like a Google search engine. It will give us evidence to prove that what we're focusing on is correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's because 100,000 years ago, we had to be correct about our assumptions or else we would die.
Mm-hmm.
So our brain has been geared to give us information to prove that what we are thinking is true.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this in arguments we have with people. It really is the warring conclusions and the warring evidence. You know, if I have evidence about one restaurant that I love and you do not like that restaurant, and we have an argument about why, and you can see the evidence flowing back and forth, yes?
Mm-hmm.
I could go into that even more fully, but just suffice it to say, our brain always wants to prove that our conclusions are right. It comes from the 100,000 years ago. Give you an example. Let's say that you and I, the three of us, were in a cave together 100,000 years ago, and we are hungry. And so we want to go outside and get some lunch. Okay? So we're at the mouth of the cave. Just as we're stepping outside, what is our brain going to look for first? 100,000 years ago, we want to get lunch and we're stepping outside of our cave. What does the brain want to look for?
Whether it's safe, any kind of
Yes.
danger.
Huh? Predators.
Yeah, predators, yeah.
Predators, right? Because, listen, this is the funny thing about it. Well, not funny, but interesting, I would say. There are 2 kinds of mistakes that we can make. One is that we can step outside of the cave and think there's a saber-toothed cat when there really isn't. Okay, we can be all nervous and think that there is one. It's not there, though. The second kind is we can step out of the cave and think there is no saber-toothed cat, but there is. Now, Mother Nature wants us to make the first mistake 1,000,000 times. That is, thinking that there is a threat when there really isn't. Because if we make that second mistake even once, we're dead.
Hmm.
So the bottom line is you and I are inheritors of what I call the anxious brain. Our brain is on the alert always to try to see if things are safe. That is, in my way of thinking, the primary function of the brain. We have brilliant thoughts, you know. However, all the brain wants to do as an organ is keep us alive. Interesting?
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I say to people, look, celebrate your anxious brain. Have some compassion for your anxious brain. I mean, really, it's what kept us alive 100,000 years ago. The thing about it is our brain doesn't know that it is not 100,000 years ago. It was designed to look for predators. It doesn't know that we're in the 20th century, 21st century, although, stuff has been happening that raises alarms. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, okay? So, getting back to the 4 boxes. So, we generally, without knowing it, especially in new situations, we generally collect evidence that something could go wrong. Okay. Now, evidence influences our behavior. That's box number 3. Because you can try to act differently. If I really think that there's a snake outside of my door, Glenn, if I really think there is, and you don't see it, but I do, okay, and I've got evidence that it's a snake. You see it as a garden hose, but no, 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 that is a snake. My behavior is appropriate to what I'm seeing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the evidence that you and I are present to shows up in our behavior. 4th box, our behavior then creates or reinforces the condition around us. Now, when it has to do with our interactions with people, if I think I'm in the presence of someone who's out to get me, and I've got a lot of evidence, whether it's true or not, I've got evidence, is my behavior going to be very friendly toward that person? No. And that person may not at all be my enemy, but they're seeing me act very strange in front of them. And so they kind of get anxious, which reinforces my conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and it goes around and around and around. Now. So I say, what do we have control over, Lesia? We only have control over box number 1.
The conclusion.
What do I put in box number 1? Because whatever I focus my brain on, my brain will gather evidence for. You know this from your practice, your spiritual practice. If I say today, I am going to, by the end of the day, list 3 things for which I'm grateful. I'm going to look for things for which I'm grateful throughout the day. What kind of evidence is my brain gathering? And how does that affect my behavior and the behavior of people around me? We have control over one thing. We do not have control over your behavior. Your behavior is an automatic response to what your brain is, the evidence your brain is giving you. The only thing you and I have control over is what we are willing to put in box number 1. So I say to people, try something out today. Try to put in box number 1, nevertheless I'm willing. See what happens.
I missed a box somewhere. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I missed it too. Number 2.
Conclusion was the
So
end
conclusion.
was the 4th one, we'll say, right?
So conclusion leads to evidence.
Evidence.
Evidence. Okay, that's the one I missed. It.
like a Google search engine,
Right. And then
right?
behavior was below that. Okay, yeah.
Behaviors below that,
Right. That's two.
and our behavior affects other people's behavior or the situations around us,
Okay.
right? Which then strengthens the evidence, excuse me, the
Yeah.
conclusion. So it's conclusion, evidence, my behavior, the
Ah,
behavior of people around me, conclusion, evidence, my behavior, the behavior of people around me. It goes around and around and around and around.
Okay.
And every time we focus on a particular conclusion, our brain is not only giving us evidence for that conclusion, it is reinforcing a certain synaptic pathway. So the more we focus on something, the more deeply the brain
Right.
strengthens the
And
synaptic pathway.
I know you mentioned a bit about this in your TED talk. It was I forget the second word, salience. That's based on that, right? Salience, like,
Yes,
is
yes,
it
yeah,
relevant? Okay.
yes, exactly. And you know, whatever we focus on,
Hmm.
our brain will automatically think is relevant
Yeah.
and will give us salient, very clear evidence to prove
Hmm.
it. Our brain is our faithful servant.
Right. It's a phrase came up to me the other day, and I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. Where, and partly it's because right now people are relying so much on experts for what they're doing in their daily lives. And I
Yes,
just thought the word expert is interesting because that's our ego. You know, you're saying your brain is looking out for you.
yes,
And
yes, it is.
our ego is like this expert that we in general would be very wise to rely on most of the time. But it's not always, we can't always rely on that expert, because I guess it's the framework of in normal situations, it's telling your body and your various systems in your nervous system to like get ready to run or stay or fight or whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there are times when it gives you the wrong signal and your body's going into this lockup or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, it's okay, it's this person is fine, this
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
situation is and it takes a while to get back into, oh, this really is okay. I can relax. um but this, yeah, this expert word was just going around in my
Yes.
brain for a while there, so.
Yeah, I think you're really getting into something here. I have a difficult time with the word ego, and I'll tell you why. Although I must say that for many years, excuse me, for many years, I was being trained psychoanalytically,
Mhm.
but just found that it wasn't my path. But uh, the word ego itself was developed by Freud and his contemporaries to explain that aspect of ourselves that is grounded in physical reality and trying to look out for us. That we have the id, which is the childlike impulses.
Mhm.
We have the superego, which is like the parent, the parental. And then we have the ego, which is trying to make its way into the world. And one of the goals, therefore, of psychoanalysis was and still is to develop a healthy ego. But in some circles, ego, the word, has gotten a bad rap
Yeah.
because it's used for that which we should really keep under control. And you better, your ego is getting pretty big here. And, no, 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 no. There are other words to explain it that
Mhm.
don't involve the word ego. And so when I hear people talk about, I'm not saying you did it, but when I hear people talk about, oh, my ego, I shouldn't listen to it. No, wait, just as you said, it is that which is trying desperately to have us navigate life.
Yeah.
Um, but what we have a difficulty with is something that I call monkey mind. And monkey mind is a Buddhist term. It stands for that aspect of the mind that is always chattering at us as it swings from doubt to worry and back to doubt again. And we come across monkey mind whenever we're about to do something new or different, whenever we're about to try something we hadn't tried before. It's the brain saying, don't do it,
Yeah.
and giving us all kinds of reasons. I've actually located about, I think, 23 monkey mind symptoms. I list them um, in both Energy of Money and Mastering Life's Energies, but I think it's even clearer in the Mastering Life's Energies book, because when you can observe the monkey mind symptom that you're expressing at this moment, you can observe it. The minute you see it, as you know, the minute you see it, you don't have to be it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned in Energy of Money, um, the story that is actually, it's in this book here. I have my desk, the Enlightened Mind, the Stephen Mitchell book. It's a collection
Yeah,
of
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, so an anthology of sacred prose. And you mentioned in that book, in relation to when to use the tool and when to drop the tool, for like the truth that is for now, oh, this is exactly what's going on, is not appropriate in all situations, and you have to know when to drop it, and move on, because there will be a different tool down the path to get you over the next obstacle or around the corner, because otherwise it's just baggage. I think you give the in the story, the Buddhist story, it's like the person crosses the river by building a raft out of twigs, and then he gets to the other side, and you're basically saying, is it wise to put the raft on your head and keep walking with it? This which is a very graphic image of baggage, right? It's like, oh no, I'll need
Yes,
this
yes.
might be years from now, or and I think in your book too, obviously you're dealing with clients um, who are very reluctant to let go of objects and their belongings, garages full of useful things. I'm going to need this, and it's
I
like,
know.
and the further along you get, you probably the likelihood less you'll need it,
Yes,
and you're not focusing on the right things or the right.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Brilliant.
yeah.
Thank you. That was thank you. Very a brilliant uh, analysis of what I was writing about, because that's precisely what I was writing about. Um, the way our we tend to keep certain patterns of thought that we think we must have. And the thing that I loved about that quote as well is that he says, if memory serves, you should let go of your current insight of the teachings. Not necessarily let go of your teachings, but let go of your insight about them. Because as we develop spiritually, or as I would say ontologically, we see more deeply into what a principle is all about. So let go of your current understanding. And you were saying that earlier, Lesia, that you love to take a deep dive into principle and really look at what are they really meaning by this. And that's the earmark of a spiritual student.
Well, and Maria, I mean, it takes me back to this past year where I spent my year in the advanced consciousness studies class with Dr. James and 19 other brilliant minds who came in with a foundation, that was firmly rooted in the science of
Mhm.
mind teachings. And, we started with Plato, and then we went to Buddha's brain, and then we went to Amit Goswami and Paul Levy into quantum physics. And what we all kind of came in with, everybody at a different level on their own journey, wherever they are, however many years, and how much wisdom had been amassed until now. And whatever we came in with was just blown to smithereens in that first class. And the rest of the year, everybody was in their own way
Mm,
kicking and screaming, as we were all pulled and stretched and forced, cajoled, nudged, whatever, ripped out of our comfort zones as we gained new, and a deep and richer understanding of what our teaching meant to us, what
brilliant,
consciousness means. And even
brilliant.
even a few, half an hour ago or whatever, when you were talking about the brain looking at the two ways of, stepping out of the cave, thinking there's no predator, but there actually is one, versus thinking there is a predator, but there isn't. What came to mind for me was the concept of four valued logic, where it goes beyond the this or that, or yes or no, or true or false. It's, I was thinking in that situation, it could be either of those two, or it could be that, you think there is no predator and there isn't one, or you think there is a predator and there is one, that there are even more options to sort of consider when going from a quantum perspective. And so, it kind of made me think, as you guys were talking about ego and monkey mind, is this sort of another branch or avenue of the, actually, no, that's not what it was. It was the gathering evidence part. Is this another aspect of, the four boxes that you were talking about the conclusion and the evidence, and then the behavior, mine, other people's, that there are even more ways to look at it, but because our brains have been conditioned, or have evolved so little, maybe, that we're so stuck in there's only these two ways of looking at it, that we kind of gather the evidence for only those two ways of looking at it, when there really are, at least two more, if not even infinite ways of looking at it. Does that, am I making any sense? Or I'm just sort of
Yeah, yeah.
talking out loud as I'm thinking about
No, no, no,
this.
no, no. Listen, the thing I appreciate about you, Lesia, the thing I really appreciate is that you're willing to let us in on your thinking about it. Now, yes, to a certain extent, what you're saying is absolutely true. And
Yeah,
there's
yes,
always that
and
and. There are situations in physical reality that must be dealt with at the level that we are currently designed. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
For example, it's no doubt in my mind that there are some people on this planet that that can levitate, that can bilocate, that can create an external circumstance that they want immediately. I've no doubt. I am not one of them.
Mm.
And so, what I'm dealing with and what I ask others to look at is where we are right now. And where we are right now is, in part, this is what kind of brings us along at this level, that we do have the capacity to change our brains.
Mhm.
This is a big thing. 100 years ago, people weren't saying this at all. They weren't even thinking this. And it really wasn't until the advent of MRIs that we could literally see, for example, Buddhists that had practiced many years, their brains really look different than other people's brains. You know, we have the capacity to shape how our brain functions. And for me, this is huge. This is what I want to master. I think that when I master that in this life or the next, if there is reincarnation, mastering that, I declare, is our current task. How to shape our brains. Because how your brain is shaped is your experience of reality. It just is. But the great thing about it is this. The minute you say that you have the capacity to shape your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and you really see it, it creates a gap. There's a gap. You see that you are not your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I call that the ontological gap. The minute, excuse me, there's a little mosquito flying around here. The minute you see your brain functioning, you can say something that in Hindu is very profound. In Sanskrit, I am not that. I am not this. I am not that. I am not this. I am not that. It's a very profound awakening. I am not my brain. I have a brain.
Mm-hmm.
I am not my brain. I mean, if you and I can just sit with that and really get it, I think it would boost us to the next level. Because then you could say, all right, what conclusions do I want my brain to focus on?
Mm-hmm.
And because you've developed such a strong relationship with your brain will listen to you. I have a program that I teach. It's called the Gratitude Protocol, and it's all about teaching your brain to shift from being anxious to being grateful. But it's a step by step by step by step kind of a thing. And it's one of the webinars I teach. It's like an hour long. But the bottom line is that in order to shape your brain must consider that you are the alpha. You know, it's like when you train a dog,
Mm-hmm.
the trainer will say, first of all, who's the alpha here? And the brain has to consider that you are the alpha.
Mm-hmm.
But when you say focus on something, it will focus.
Yeah.
So the first thing to focus on is, what am I grateful for?
Mm-hmm.
And diligently doing that for 90 days, listing 3 examples of gratitude. And if you stop, you start over. It's very much akin to something that I teach, and I think a lot of teachers do this. It's Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. Reading chapters 4, 7, 11, and 14. Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich. Reading chapters 4, 7, 11, and 14 for 90 days. And if you miss a day, you start over. I call it the Wallace Wattles 90-Day Challenge. And I actually conduct a free Wallace Wattles 90-Day Challenge. And if people are interested, they can always go to acecoachtraining.com. And on that website, we do post when I'm going to do the next training. And of course, they can see my my TEDx talk, the one I think you saw it, Glenn. Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
I watched it too. We didn't watch it together, but yeah, I watched it too. After I watched the video of The Energy of Money, and now I am about a
Wow.
third of the way through your book, The Energy of Money, and Glenn and I are going to work that book together.
What a
Um,
student you are. What a
I
student you
love
are. Oh
I
my
love
God.
this. I love this Wallace Waddles because The Science of Getting Rich, I was introduced to that book in my second Science of Mind prerequisite class, Prosperity Plus with Mary Morrissey. And I read that book, I did the work, and then I have listened to that book on, as an audiobook, probably like at least 15 to maybe 20 times. But those 4 chapters specifically, I love this challenge and I totally want to do that challenge. It just, and reading it, listening to it, whatever, the narrator that I chose, because there are several to choose from, but the narrator that I chose just sort of sounds like he's from the era during which the book was written.
Oh,
And
how
it just
great.
like works so well. And
Oh, sweetie,
that
that
it
is
sounds
so
dated
great.
and it just, but there is the thinking stuff. I can't even remember, the whole sort of paragraph or whatever, but for the longest time I had printed it out and it was on the back of my laptop. And every time I went to my laptop, I would
Oh,
see it.
sweetheart.
So what a great reminder. I'm totally going to go onto the website myself, and I'm going to look to see when that next 90-day
Yes,
challenge is.
and you know, uh, what you also can do is email, because he does it with me, Wayne, just WAYNE at acecoachtraining.com, and ask him.
All right.
And the reason I say that is because sometimes, I've already done it once this year. I'm going to do it another time. And Wayne and I haven't really planned when, but if we hear from enough people,
Yeah.
we'll do it. And it's so great. It's 4 weeks. The first week is on chapter 4, then 7, 11, and 14. And then we have at the end, 90 days, we have a 90-day wrap up for people who have done it.
Nice.
And I give them a little special gift just for doing it. So,
Oh, well, you know what? I think that I'm looking at the clock and knowing that you have, another event that you need to go to. We still have our super rapid fire question round. So I feel like this would probably be a good time to, Honey Bunch, if there's one more thing that you wanted to bring up or ask Maria
I
about.
I just, since you're mentioning Wallace Waddles, every time I hear that name, Lassie used to laugh every time she read in the book where he describes people as blockheads. It's so
Blockheads, even blockheads can get rich.
yeah, exactly.
it's very much on time.
I love it. I love
But
it.
anyway, yeah, so we'll do the super rapid fire question round, and where Glenn is just going to bombard you with questions for 1 minute. And we just want you to answer as quickly off the top of your head as possible.
Uh-oh,
No deep thought or anything. It's just a
we're in
fun
danger.
way. Danger,
We're
babe.
in danger. Oh my God.
Okay.
It's a fun way to
Uh-oh.
get to know you just a little bit more. And then
All
after
right.
that, you'll have a chance to just tell people everything that you want to share in terms of, where to go, where to find you, just how to get in touch, what to sign up for, and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Okay.
okay. So, Mahoney, are you ready?
I am indeed, yes.
Okay. So, get ready, set, and go.
Do you dance at weddings?
Yes.
How many tattoos do you have?
None.
What is your favorite city to visit?
Barcelona.
Okay, now which do you prefer? Monkey mind or monkey bars?
Monkey bars.
Consciousness or energy?
They're both the same.
Okay. Teaching or learning?
They're both the same.
Free will or determinism?
Free will.
Naps or massages?
Oh my God. Naps.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Okay. Books or music?
Books.
Reincarnation or you only live once?
Reincarnation.
Okay. Swimming in pools or in the ocean?
Ocean.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
All right. Okay,
Very well.
Glenn, why don't you
I
tell
hope
Maria what she's won?
Okay.
In air quotation marks.
From, and they're both today from the same source, my favorite book of aphorisms,
I
Geary's Guide to the World's Greatest Aphorists by James.
love it.
Okay.
I love aphorisms.
The first one being uh, Aristotle, very short. He who has overcome his fears will truly be free. And the
Yep.
second one is, oh, I didn't mark this one. One second.
I love you, Glenn. I just love you so much. This is so great.
Sorry.
Mm-mm.
This is Stanislav Lech,
Okay.
who is a was born in what is now Ukraine, but he's a satirist, I guess, whatever. And okay, I've not marked the. This is a man who came up with the phrase that politics is a Trojan horse race, which that's what got me right away. Okay, um, and I have not marked the one that is sorry. Okay. Okay, this one I'll go with. You have to climb to reach a deep thought.
Yep.
He's all about these inversions, you know.
Yes, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Hmm.
Anyway, so sorry, that's not the one I was going to get, but there you go.
So, am I going to get that book?
No, you're getting this just my words. You're getting the book if I send it to you on Amazon from Amazon. But yeah, sorry. It's our goofy little thing where we just give people their my favorite quotes of the day. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, do me a favor. Email me the name, and I'll get it for myself on
oh,
Amazon.
okay,
I just love it,
wonderful. Okay, and I'll do the right quote this time. Sorry when I email you.
sweetie.
Okay.
All
So
right.
back to Lasia with the links and what you were going to discuss.
Yeah. So Maria, how, if people want to learn more, if they want to sign up for something with you, if they want to find out about ACE coach training, where could they go?
Well, if you can relate to anything that Lesia, Glenn, and I have been talking about in the past hour and 15, 20 minutes, if you can relate to it in your heart, if it calls to you, then number one, you can go to our website, which is acecoachtraining.com, ACECOACH training.com. And there you'll find a wealth of ways to be with us. One of which, if you really want to study with me, and it's an intensive. We can only take a small group of people at a time. It is the Mastering Life's Energies course. I'm actually teaching it this weekend, and we have people from all over the world, literally, in this course. It's one of the things that the pandemic has helped us with because we've gone virtual on all of our courses.
Mhm.
But the next one is in September. I will be leading it. I'd be thrilled to work with you. We can only take 28 people, and it's filling up rather quickly. And it's on a sliding scale. When you go to the website, we don't want finances to keep you away from this ontological transformation. Um, if any of you are interested in contacting me personally, you can go through my assistant, Monica, at acecoachtraining.com. And I coach people. I have a limited private practice because I I have a limited time to do it in, but I coach people and I do have coaching groups, which I love to lead. You know, we have 8 people in the group and we go very deeply into some of the principles and tools that I've alluded to. And if you're interested, you can always get my 2 books. The first is The Energy of Money. And oh, great. The Energy of Money is just a compendium of everything that by that time I'd worked with about 5,000 people with their relationship with money after attending my seminar then, which was called You and Money. And the one that came after, Mastering Life's Energies, is the Energy of Money is really a classic, and you need to read it with someone else. You really need to study what I've written because it's very densely written. Every word is in there for a reason. It's the same with Mastering Life's Energies, but I designed it for someone who might be sitting on a subway, for example, and they're going to work and they have 10 minutes and they want to go into something that's going to brighten their day. Mastering Life's Energies would be the one. Excuse me. So those are the major ways. People who want to become coaches, if you really want rigorous training to become a coach using ontological principle, I invite you to check out our coach training program. We train people from all over the world, and we are ICF accredited, the International Coaching Foundation, which means that when you graduate from our academy, the degree that you're awarded, the ACC from ICF, is recognized around the world, and increasingly, corporations and groups, when you want to coach them, they're now asking, are you ICF certified? And that's what we offer. So if you're interested in any of these things, please contact us. And I just want to thank you, Lydia and Lesia and Glenn. I just want to thank the two of you for being so generous and spacious and empowering and curious. Those are the things that I see in the two of you. And it's been a privilege for me to be with you today.
I feel like if our MRIs were taken now as compared with the beginning of our conversation, our brains would definitely look different.
Oh, sweeties. Oh.
This has
so
been
much.
such a delight, such a privilege, so wonderful, so fun, so entertaining, so expansive. And I have to say, even though you talked about the energy of money being written very densely, that book for me is an easy and delightful, entertaining read,
Yeah.
along with all of the wisdom and the principles and the tools and the exercises and everything that is in there. And I love the way you just keep layering the knowledge of, I'm talking about this first thing first, this is what it is. And then to recap, here it is. So then you go into number 2, number 2 is this. And when you pair it up with number 1, then this is what you get. To recap, this is it. And then you go to 3 and you keep reminding us of what all those principles, tools are along the way. It's so wonderful. I am so delighted and grateful to have a copy. And I'm grateful that you just said, and it's been recorded, that it's a good book to read with someone. So honey bunch, there's the inspiration and
you'll love it together. You will love it if you do it together. Really, please do.
Yeah.
I actually have a book reading, book study once a year of the energy of money and of mastering life's energies. And I think at the beginning of the year, we're going to do the book study for the energy of money. So anyone who's interested, we usually get 200-300 people, and we have a ball. We just have a ball together.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I am just overjoyed and so
Ah,
filled with gratitude right now. Thank you, Maria, so, so, so much for giving us
absolutely.
some of your time today, your wisdom, your insights, all of this. It's just been such a rich, wonderful conversation. Honey Bunch, is there anything that you want to say at the end here?
Just thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So my name is Lasia. This has been another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? I have been here with my co-host Glenn, and our guest today has been the amazing, delightful, wonderful, just incredible being Maria Nemeth. And there are so many things that you can go and find out about when you go onto her website and the ACE coaching training website. So many ways to connect and interconnect, to learn from, be expanded by, all of this work that Maria has been doing over the years. So I am so grateful for this conversation that has just taken place, for this conversation that continues to inspire us as we go into our days. And of course, we are grateful for everyone who has listened, who has watched, however you've tuned in to listen to this episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Thank you for your time and your presence. And we look forward to being in community with you again soon. That's it for today. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lasia Kohut, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping make this podcast a reality. Today's special guest, Maria Nemeth. Music, Vasco Lorenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, Sakma Sterke, copyright 123rf.com. For more information on this podcast and our Lasia Kohut Soul Excavator, please visit www.lasiakohut.com. If you like what you've heard, please like, subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. Thanks for tuning into Who Do You Think You Are?